In September last year, the Austrian voters made the nationalist FPÖ, the Austrian Freedom Party, the largest party in Austria. However, it was not until March that a new government took office, constituting of the conservative ÖVP, the Austrian People's Party, which lost every third of its voters, and the SPÖ, the Social Democratic Party. Welcome, Barbara Kolm, member of the National Assembly of Austria and the president of the Hayek Institute.
Thank you very much for having me, Elias.
Now, it's been 5 months since the Austrian elections, and that's where your party, the FPÖ, became the largest party with 28% of the vote share. And but only now, Austria actually has a new government in place 5 months later. So why is it taken so long?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, after the elections, the Freedom Party, the FPÖ, came in number one with more than 29%, was a landslide victory. However, conservatives who have lost 13% and the Social Democrats who have equally lost, but not as much, only a couple of percent, wanted to stick to power, especially the conservatives who had been in power with the Green Party for the last 5 years. And because, it's hard to lose the chancellor, and this would have happened for them. So they rather opted for a coalition with the NEOS, which was the small, formerly pro-market libertarian, they are liberals, and the SPÖ. So they started negotiations right in October. However, when finally in beginning of January, the NEOS pulled the plug because they could not form a government. They could not agree on anything because you would have had to reduce the government debt, which was tremendous or enormous and not known prior to the elections. Only 3 days after the elections, the billions of euros that were missing in this national budget, it's right now almost 30 billion, that are missing, became evident, and Minister of Finance had to admit, we don't have those missing money. And then after long negotiations, the NEO said, no, we cannot agree on deficit reduction, nor on structural reforms, especially pension reform, and they pulled the plug. So the ÖVP, the conservatives, tried for one day to find a solution with the SPÖ. However, their majority in the parliament was only by one parliamentarian, which is too little, and they gave up, which in other words meant that finally the president of the country had to ask the Freedom Party, Mr. Kickl, the leader of the Freedom Party, to form a government. Within this, a couple of days, we were able to solve this deficit issue that was, literally hanging behind or was in front of the door because of the bad numbers and figures, and we fixed the problem. We have sent a letter to Brussels announcing the reduction of costs, reducing spending, making structural reforms, and EU agreed to that. And so we were on the path of consolidation. However, this was I think right now in retrospect, you could see that this was the only option that the Conservative Party had to solve this problem. Because if you are under the deficit procedure, you, as we all know, you are kind of literally in big trouble. Not only your business and finance location is harmed dreadfully, but you're definitely under surveillance by Brussels, and you're totally under control for the next couple of years until all those problems are solved. So this was the issue, and we fixed it. And as soon as it was fixed, all of a sudden, the negotiations with the Conservative Party became difficult again. And eventually, the offering was, you have 7 ministries, we only keep 5. But they wanted the Ministry of Interior Affairs, and due to the migration problem, the Freedom Party said, no, definitely not. We need the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Interior Affairs, and there was no agreement upon that. And then Mr. Kickl, the leader of the Freedom Party, pulled the plug. So the ÖVP did not want it to stay in power and didn't want to give up the Ministry of Interior Affairs. And that's where we stand. And so then they came back to the table, negotiating table, the Freedom Party, the Conservatives, the Conservatives, the SPÖ, the Social Democratic Party, and the NEOS, and then used many of the solutions that were in place that we had negotiated, and then formed a government. And it was sworn in on Monday. And tomorrow, tomorrow we will have the presentation in Parliament.
So there's no real firewall against the FPÖ, for example, as there is in Germany. This has come down more to the refusal of the FPÖ to give up the position of the Interior Ministry. Have I understood that correctly?
Yes, correct. There is no firewall. I mean, of course, they want to get rid of the Freedom Party because right now in the polls, we are about 35 to 37%. And the voters understood that we were the party with the right solutions and the best ideas. By more than 33% of the polls say the Freedom Party has the best ideas. And we came in with structural reforms. We came in with a plan to cut spending, to help those who are definitely in need, but not to overspend and get rid of all those free riders that came in involuntarily into our country ever since 2015. And there was a harsh program with regards to that. And this is obviously not what the current parties who form the government want to do.
I understand it that there's no real hesitancy there's no cordon sanitaire, right, against the FPÖ, because your party has been in government in Austria, has been part of government at very least, part of government coalitions in the past, obviously. So there's no, you don't have the same kind of attitudes towards your party that similar parties, nationalist parties, have in other parts of Europe.
Well, first of all, and second, we form local governments in our states. In 5 states, in 4 states, the Freedom Party has the vice governor, and in 1 state, the Freedom Party just won the governor with 35%. So it's we're a main party now.
You're a very undeniable...
Mainstream and in the center-right, definitely.
Right, and an undeniable force in Austrian politics. So what were the key issues in the election, actually? Were they centered around economics or around immigration?
Well, the key issues during the election, of course, was migration, immigration. This was a big issue and a big problem, especially when you look at Vienna, where we will have local elections in 4 weeks, where safety, security is a huge issue, and where the spending and redistribution to make sure that all the the additional family can join and can come into the country and is well serviced. We are our welfare state. So this is a huge issue. And the Austrians are definitely against that. But however, the Social Democrats and also the Conservatives and also the NEOS, obviously right now, are against harsh measures.
So what kind of politics can we expect from this sort of like centrist government? You're not going to get any harsh, any effective immigration policies, like remigration, for example, as they talk about in Germany. AfD likes to talk about remigration. You're not going to get any of that.
Well, that's exactly the thing. I mean, The ÖVP paid lip service during the election campaign to be harsh on that. However, we doubt that they will, because if you look at who is in which ministry right now, and by the way, it's the largest government that we have ever seen with 24 members of cabinet. So it's 14 ministers plus 7 state secretaries. We have never had a government that big in times where you actually should look into austerity measures and save money and not spend it in such a way. So, and this government is very big, and the key positions are actually, apart from the Ministry of Interior Affairs, all the key positions that are in charge of either money, because the Ministry of Finance is run by a Social Democrat, and the Ministry of Social Affairs and all those issues that when it comes to welfare, they are all managed by Social Democrats. So I doubt that we will see austerity and reason, especially reason, on that front.
So what would be different if FPÖ was actually part of the government, if you had actually managed to get the Interior Ministry, for example?
Well, we would have immediately changed the law that people who have been on the refugee status who have been in the country for 10 years are allowed to get the citizenship, which by now in 2015, from 2015 to 2025 would have happened. And we will have thousands of refugees who will now become Austrian citizens during this year. And we would have prolonged that process for at least 5 more years, would have changed to measures like integration, German language learning, integration into the labor markets, etc. And those measures probably will not take place now.
And as for the austerity measures that you're promoting, what would the FPÖ actually be doing in that respect?
Well, the FPÖ had suggested to cut spending overall in the budget. First, then run a deregulation, government deregulation program like the Dodge program, and look not only in each and every department of the government, but also in detail and include the population to find the right measures to cut costs, to get rid of this bureaucracy that we are all suffering from. And this is not only the bureaucracy that we receive via Brussels, and the regulation via Brussels, but it's also the gold plating of exactly those measures that we see coming in from Brussels. And so those are the things that we would immediately have cut. And per annum, we would have cut costs by 4 billion to, if you run it radically, 18 billion per year. And this would have been possible without any output reductions. So just be more efficient and be more effective on that front. And then after having done that, the second thing is immediately creating the right business location and promoting supply-side economics, which means, in other words, tax cuts, not only for corporates, but also on the individual tax level. Second thing, again, get rid of the bureaucracy for our enterprises, whether it's in getting business locations going, etc. But then also make sure to attract foreign direct investment. And those were the major issues, or the major steps that we would have taken.
So do you expect this current government, which is centrist in nature, it's combining a bunch of what you might call dissonant ideologies. Do you expect this government to last until the next election, or do you think they will collapse under their own instability?
Well, the thing is, it's a government by the Social Democrats, the Conservatives, and the Neos, who should be pro-market libertarian. However, if you see already what is being discussed, then I don't see that they will be very proactively in promoting the business location and the labor location. And, you know, the achievement principle that and property rights will be a big issue, whether they can follow suit. The current Minister of Finance actually also promotes shareholder value versus stakeholder value discussion. He is very critical towards capitalism, towards property rights. He's a big fan of Piketty and again, big government. So the question is, will, on the one hand, the EU force them enough to maintain out of the deficit procedure? Or will they sooner or later give up on that and say, oh, we don't care, we run the deficit procedure and will be under surveillance, but can spend and spend and spend. So it will be tough tension between those three parties, and we don't know if they will last. We have seen that with the Green and the Conservatives. They lasted for 5 years. We would not have believed this would be possible. In the end, they did not even talk with each other, but they wanted to stay in power. And that's the issue. If you have politicians who just simply stick to power and don't want to serve their people, then we're in deep trouble.
Thank you, Barbara Kolm, member of the National Council of Austria and president of the Hayek Institute.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
And thank you for watching Riks Europe.